Host YouTube, and I'm back with another video review. Growing up, I've always been a fan of Mega Man. Blue was a pretty cool color as a kid. Much like my joy for Sonic, my original enjoyment for Mega Man came from the cartoon. You know the one. My SNES was a hand-me-down, so I only got like 2 new games for it, so my first Mega Man game was actually on the PlayStation, which was Mega Man X6. I get why people dislike it, and I don't think it's that good myself, but until you get to the final area, I think it's pretty fun just to jump and shoot around. Then I borrowed a few of the older games from some friends. I got Command Mission on the GameCube, I played the ZX series, I got the X Collection on the PS2, and the next closest thing I got to the series was this game, Azure Striker Gunvolt, a game created by Inti Creates. From the people that gave us the Mega Man Zero and the ZX series, this is their first self-published game all on their own. Knowing that going in, it was a pretty easy buy and I enjoyed myself with this whole series ever since. The world of Gunvolt is one of normal humans and special ability holders called adepts. Adepts are being hunted down by the powerful conglomerate Sumeragi Group, who have a hold on the entire island nation of Japan, ranging from their sole private military power to controlling their very media. It's up to our young adept hero, Gunvolt, who wields the Azure Striker, the ability to wield electricity. With the help of the resistant organization Quill, he won't let the Sumeragi group do what they will with innocent adepts. We first join him in the middle of a mission to find the program called the Muse, which has been detecting the location of adepts for Sumeragi through the power of her music. With that introduction out of the way, we are now thrown into the middle of the game with an intro stage. Really capturing that Mega Man-like feel, our protagonist's weapon of choice is a gun, but unlike the Blue Bomber, your shots don't do much damage. But what they do lead to is your main form of attacking, your flash field. By itself, your flash field also doesn't do much damage, in fact it's worse than your gun. The trick is to shoot your gun to tag enemies and then activate your flash field to deal focused damage. You can stack up to 3 tags on one enemy, and the more tags they have, the more damage you do. And all of these ways of attacking stack on top of each other as well. Using your flash field uses up your EP meter. EP stands for Electro Psycho, a fun fact for all of us, even me. You can always replenish your EP by double tapping down on whatever you feel comfortable moving your character with. D-pad, control stick, I won't judge you. Why aren't you playing this game on D-pad? What are you doing? In terms of movement with your controller of choice, much like Mega Man X, Gunvolt has a dash and a wall kick, but he can't slide down them, so watch out. Last but not least is the Prevasion skill. Whenever Gunvolt gets hit, he has this blue phase effect, nullifying the damage. That's Prevasion. Each hit takes a chunk of EP away, but as long as you have the smallest amount, it will activate. It doesn't activate, however, if you take damage while you have your flash field up. As long as you keep your EP filled up, you are mostly invincible throughout the game. That being said, if your EP does run out, Gunvolt starts to overheat, but his attack is limited to his gun, and you are left defenseless until it replenishes on its own. I think Prevasion is this game's most unique mechanic, at least for newcomers to the genre. This constant safety net that is juxtaposed to how you deal most of your damage in this game is interesting to me. If you let it, you're able to focus on one of the most unsung aspects of this type of game, which is evasion. This brings in an interesting dynamic with how you choose to evade and attack simultaneously throughout the entire game. It really lowers the barrier of entry into this game without also lowering the ceiling for high-level play at the same time. Add in the fact that the flash field slows your aerial descent, you get this very movement focus based game, and I find that enjoyable in a different way than the Zero series focus on combos. Continuing with the game, we finally make it to the end of the level where we find out that the Muse isn't some kind of computer program, but a little girl who is having her powers manipulated by force. Seeing someone in a similar situation that he once was in Gunvolt decides to save the girl even if it means going against the mission and cutting ties with Quill to do so. You join up with this duo 6 months later and they found a place of their own to call home. And Gunvolt is still doing the same thing he's always been doing. With the same people he's been doing it with. Some bits of this story make you wonder why they even bother sometimes. But ignoring that, we are presented with the basic gameplay loop. Much like your classic Mega Man games before it, you have a list of levels to pick from with a boss at the end of each stage to beat. Instead of 8 presented stages, we have 6. Very different. You have a subaquatic base that is filled with trapped wormholes, but its true trap is the water that tries to impede your progress and shorts out your power. A pharma lab that houses deadly plants and swarms of bugs that devour anything in their path. A biochem plant that starts off with a train ride and leads into you jumping over lava pits to make your way further in. What? The plot turned back on. Horny adepts in my area. Let's talk about home base before we head out. You can hit the left button to open up your sub menu. Don't forget to save your game. It doesn't autosave, so you have to manually do it yourself. However, you can check your stats. Enemies dispatched, bosses dispatched, electricity used, what name you. But you can also check your options. You can change all of your buttons, and you can also set the sound whether you want to hear the audio or not. But more importantly, you can check your skills. Skills are special abilities that you are able to use from the start of the game, but the more you level up, the more skills you get. And gear. Gear augments Gunvolt's abilities, and they are made with the materials that you get from completing levels. You can change your gear on the fly during a level, but you cannot change your skills, so make sure to set them right before you leave. Inventory, which checks the items that you get from bosses, gear that you make from materials, and the materials themselves. And finally, stats. You can check your health, EP, level, experience points. Every time you level up, you also gain a +5 to health. You don't gain any SP, I don't know why they put that there. One of the most important things is the challenges. Each time you beat a stage, you open up a set of challenges that you can then clear to gain bonus rewards such as credits or a guaranteed item drop. It's very important. But I think one of the most important things, that's the synth dealer. You can sell the items you get, which is fine, but more importantly, you synth the gear. Now this gear can do a multitude of things, so let's go over the first type, which are eye gear. Contacts. Gunvolt's able to wear 2 of them. They have a multitude of different uses, such as increasing recovery pickup effects, decrease the EP expenditure of your flash field, more credits, more experience, more SP, all very different. You have rings, which affect Gunvolt's movement, which I think is pretty important overall. You can get a boost band, which can perform 3 air hops. You can perform air dashes, and then you can do both depending on how many gear you make. In fact, the only way to get more gear, such as the blue streak band, is by making the jump and the air dash rings as well. And finally, you have lockets, which I think is more defensive based than the other two. I mean, other than this one is increased flash field's attack damage, but you have ones such as enables perversion at a lower EP cost, prevents knockback, you just take less damage, are the very special disable pervasion and make spikes fatal, but you get a 10% kudos gain. Really wearing their past on their sleeves with this one. But there is one other very cute option in this game, and that is talking to Jewel. Talking to Jewel, well, it makes you feel closer. It's very cute. It allows you to get a look into the lives of these two characters. It's all the character development you're gonna get from like most of these two anyway, except for these in-game conversations that they're talking about, which are in later re-releases of this game. Oh my god, you're doing my job for me. It's like you know. Part of me loves this, and a part of me also hates this. but at the end of it, you always feel a little closer to Joel each time. Now let's head out to the Red Light District, Sinner's Row, the first real story-driven level after our intro stage. Partway through, we run into this very provocative adept, Zonda, who uses his Septima ability to turn the stage upside down. Oh, bottomless pits, how I missed you. No, I didn't. Get out of here. As we dash, jump, and flash field our way through the stage, we run into our party crasher, Copen. Proto to our Mega, he steals the stage for his own and becomes our boss battle. But seeing how we're halfway there, I think it's time to bring up a few more gameplay elements. I stated before that you have a special moves along with a special meter. Your move range from attack focus like the Astrosphere to healing and small boosts to drops in power. Each one takes up a different amount of meter, which has 3 sections. Like EP, your special meter recovers over time, but at a much slower rate however. It's fast enough to be used multiple times during a level and still have at least one at the start of a boss and gain another by the time near the end. The second mechanic is the Revival Anthem. Upon death, there is a chance that the muse will sing you a reviving song. You have unlimited EP, you can jump and air dash without the need of rings, and continuously at that. And I think that's it. You don't really need a damage boost because you can continuously attack forever, so who cares, right? Once this revival song kicks off, it's an easy wash either way. And speaking of an easy wash, Copen is defeated and he lives on to hate adepts another day. Don't know why he's so mad, something about adepts being unnatural or something racist like that. Now I think it's time for me to enter my very own ramble corner where I talk about things related to the game but also kind of not. Translation's hard. Localization is hard. This game's localization is fine for the most part, it's just, when this game originally released on the 3DS, there was no voice acting in the North American release. I'm pretty sure any international release at that. After releasing on Steam, the game got updated with the Japanese voice audio, along with in-game stage dialogue that was cut. Honestly, I think they get in the way a little bit, and they would have 100% been cumbersome without any extra VO. But even with it, it's about 90% cumbersome. You can change the opacity of the cut-ins to however you want them to be, with the minus button on Switch at least, and something else on another console I assume. Overall, I think it is a very nice addition, but however for our North American release, it kinda compounds my problem with the localization, and that's mostly with name changes. So, all of our bosses are named after cars. Viper, Zonda, Copen, Coretta, etc. It's just that in Japanese, some of these car names are different. Daytona, Patera, Acura. Maybe somehow these car manufacturers caught wind of this small video game and gave them a cease and desist for their international release. But I kinda doubt that, right? But hey, maybe that did happen. But then we run into the problem with names such as Jewel and Lumen, who were originally Cyan and Morpho, and I'm just wondering why. To hear these names being shouted and yelled and seeing them be different on screen is just very odd to me. You hit this point in localization where they have to localize what someone personally thinks is cool in Japanese to what that localizer personally thinks is cool in whatever language they are localizing to, right? For an example, it really comes up hard with English-based names in Japanese media. Localizers feel the need to match this foreign factor, so at least in English-based media that I've seen, they pick things like Spanish or French. I get it. In the original non-voice release, I didn't care because I didn't have to hear any of this, but now that I do, I can't get over it. Cyber Diva turns into Muse. Short and sweet, which I guess is fine, but Lumen, I don't get that one. A reference to light? A Russian band reference? I don't know. I know what a Morpho Butterfly is. That's her main Moffat, so that change goes over my head. As for Jewel, instead of referencing her in Gunvolt's color, cyan, we reference his electrical ability? Don't get this either, but maybe they didn't get the cyan from the Japanese enunciation of Xian, which is fair because I didn't get the car references until I looked it up, because I don't know anything about cars. But this guy's name is Carrera, no matter where you are, And the light bulb illuminated in my head when I realized this. Viper isn't just his name because he's a wannabe tough guy. I mean, it is, but not just because. Either way, I still have this issue for the next 2 games, but their newest game as of this video, Luminous Avenger X2, will have their first English voice cast for the game series, so I know I won't have a problem for at least my second playthrough. Long ramblings aside, we have 3 more areas to take on, like running through and completely ruining a data store just by being there with our flash field on. Those flash field challenges also don't help. We get to scale a giant media tower that puts our movement to the test by dodging and utilizing propulsion pads. And finally, we lurk the hidden underground stratacombs that rob us of our sight and houses zombies. Be careful, they bite. Our final reward for beating up 7 cars is Joel getting kidnapped while we were away. We make a mad dash for her, but it's too late. A revived boss takes her away, and we finally reach the end game. If the last level tested our speed, this one tests your patience by bombarding you with plenty of enemies when that affects how your flash field carries you through the air. And seriously, they put 3 of these assholes in this level, come on! But by the end, we start our tried and true tradition of a boss rush. Segmented, but still present. After defeating Merrick, we start ascending the orbital elevator of Babel, where we face off once again against the likes of Stratos, Yoda, Viper, and a small twist on our boss fight with Elise, which comes to an end with our rematch with Copen, which is quite similar to how it happened the first time. So we move on to the final stage with our final boss, Nova, who uses the power of the muse against us. This really is an NT Creates game when you look at it. Oh, he's gigantic. But after we beat him in his second form, we save Japan from having all of their adepts forcibly controlled by their own kind. Something Eternal Chaos, something Civil War. Sounds like a problem for later. Look, Asimov is here, one of our Quill friends. He's here to greet us. That's nice. They helped us get in here. Oh man, this is great. Oh. Well, that's not how this game ends. I wonder how we get the true ending. Maybe it had something to do with these jewels that we found in the original 6 stages in Sinner's Row. Anyway, let's talk about how this game is different from the other NT Creates platformers. I feel like Gunvolt was created to fill a gap that Mega Man wasn't in at the time. In fact, Mega Man wasn't in much at the time. It would take a while for things to get better for him, so people were really looking forward to this. That gap that I'm talking about is filling up a spot of a Mega Man game that focuses on points. It is in this aspect that I consider Gunvolt similar to the Zero series, but unlike the Zero games, this one doesn't lock things away from you for being bad at the game. The game rewards you points called kudos that go up as long as you attack enemies in a natural way. It also starts giving you a multiplier on your overall points once you cash them in. You can cash them in by hitting the checkpoint or using an offensive special skill. The more points you get, the better your rank at the end of the stage is, and the more chances you have at getting materials at the end of the level. The game encourages you to get more points by having a song change when you hit 1,000 kudos gained. Songs sung by the voice of Lumen herself. It also tries to promote you to finish the stage without locking in points until the very end. That's why I had to go out of my way to make footage of me using special skills in the middle of levels. Under normal circumstances, you are only able to take 3 hits before you lose all of your kudos. There is an easier setting that doesn't let you lose kudos at all, and a harder setting that makes you lose them only after taking 1 hit, but each lowers or raises the point multiplier respectively. I think the only thing left to do is to start talking about positives and negatives of the game. I think the material synthesis system is awful. If you're just going from stage to stage, you aren't making any gear that matters until after you beat the first 6 bosses. The gear that matters is your double jump and air dash, which I think should be base abilities of 1 each. The challenges give you set materials to alleviate this problem a bit, but it's not enough seeing how you can only complete them once and you have to beat a stage first to unlock them anyway. I'd give a bigger critique in fixing this problem, but they already did that in the third game, and I hope they keep that system moving forward, so we will also move on. One of the criticisms I heard a lot when this game initially released was that it felt pretty slow, especially compared to this company's previous games such as the Zero and the ZX series, which is fair. This game is indeed slower than those other two games, but I feel like people have this weird misconception about the game flow. I get the feeling that people felt the need to shoot their enemies and then stop and kill them completely before they moved on, and just looking at the game by itself, I can understand that. However, the game doesn't teach you to play it that way at all. I at least don't think it does, but using the first stage as an example, you start in an area that halts your progress with crates that you have to leap over. Then they put enemies on top of those crates to keep you grounded, so you learn about tagging in the flash field. It's pretty slow, but the second part of the level is completely different. You have these shutters that drop down if you aren't fast enough to get past them. The gauge is encouraging you to move quickly through the area even though it has enemies about. This is then further elevated by enemies that throw bombs at you. You can wait for them to drop their shield and throw a bomb, or you can jump behind them. You could also just sit there attacking with your flash field, but then we're right back to our perceived problem. Because all of your attacks stack at the same time, the simplest game plan for Gunvolt is to shoot in front of you at all times, flash field when you hear you got a hit, keep shooting to do more damage, and they'll get fully tagged. Make the jump over them. With your flash field's contact damage, they'll probably be dead by the time you land, and if not, just jogging away from them without dashing will probably kill them before they get off screen. It feels pretty effortless to me now that I've played the game a lot, so I think most people were having a problem with getting their minds wrapped around how you play this game as compared to the other games from Inti Creates. And that's just me trying to get a high score, because this game rewards you points even if you don't kill enemies. I love games that give me points for being cool. Full strike, air strike, doubles, triples, it feels good and it doesn't really matter, and it doesn't feel like you're failing when you don't get it. I think C is the lowest rank you can get in this game, and the timer only looks bad if you're too slow about beating the level. I think the whole flat-footed idea really sticks out with the bosses, at least compared to the Zero games. I mean, you aren't doing sick combos in this game, but because of the three things that I told you with attacking, you're still moving around just as much to do full damage, especially when assholes do full screen supers. I like writing these reviews by going through the story and mixing it up with gameplay mechanics, and I give my general ideas on that throughout. The problem is this story is not that good. I mean, the end stage dialogue is neat with your operators from Quill, but the most fleshed out Gunvolt gets is with his conversations with Jewel, but you have to go out of your way to get them. Overall it's fine, and it does make me feel when it wants to try like it's ending, but I think the scenario's scope is a bit too big for the type of game they made. Gunvolt is a multimedia franchise to all of its detriments. But talking about aesthetic, the art in this game is great. The character sprites are great, the bosses look intimidating, the areas you go to can be pretty basic and industrial, but the colors and the detail just give them this special kind of mood. The music is just as fitting. If I have one small problem with it, it's that after a while the stage music gets pushed out of your brain for the Lumen songs, so it's hard to remember them sometimes. But the home base theme, Nova's boss music, it's all good. I think this game is very good. It's Inti Creates' first self-published game, and they've been around since the late 90s. While this game wasn't what some people wanted it to be, I think it's very unique and worth a buy. I don't know how to end this video, so I guess I should be as abrupt as a shot in the heart. Haha, get it? Yeah. I'm not spoiling the secret ending for this game, mostly because I don't care enough to, and because I have an extra video that I want to make with all this extra footage that I have. That should be fun, but I think Gunvolt is a very good first step in the right direction for Inti Creates' own original IP. I should know, I've played the other sequels, I like them just as much, maybe even more. But I hope to get back to Gunvolt very soon because there is a new game coming out this month of this video. So I hope to get back to Gunvolt very soon and maybe a little bit afterwards, if you know what I mean. Honestly, those other reviews should be way easier because I don't have to explain as much for the next games. Jesus Christ. And even if I do have a new playable character to talk about. Anyway, be sure to like, subscribe, tell me your favorite Lumen song in the comments, and until we meet again, matao.